My next request for a NHL character came from Nicole Becker, and her favorite team is the Colorado Avalanche. So that's what we're going to be doing today, and let's get started. As usual, we're going to be using a standard rainbow loom in the aligned configuration where all of the pins are even with each other. And the bands we're going to be using are black, clear, skin tone, blue, white, burgundy, gray, and silver for the skate blades. And the burgundy that I'm using is the metallic burgundy from Rainbow Loom. The burgundy brown color wasn't exactly right. I believe Rainbow Loom has put out just a burgundy pack, but I don't have that one, so I'm going to be using the metallic burgundy from Rainbow Loom. And as always, we're going to start with the attachments. And we are going to start with the arms. And this is going to be banded a little bit differently than I've done in the past. And what we're going to do, we're going to take a single burgundy band and go down our loom 4 times with our single burgundy band. Next, we want to take a single blue band, and we're going to go down on top of that. And next, we want to take 3 black bands for the glove and put those on at the end. And we are going to cap this with a single black band wrapped 3 times around the peg. And for the other arm, we want to do the opposite. We want to start with blue and put our blue bands on first. So again, we're going to go down 4 times with a single blue band, and we're going to top that with a single burgundy band. 4 times going down our loom. And again, we will use 3 black bands to represent the glove, and we are going to continue down the left side. And we're going to cap this with a single black band wrapped 3 times around the peg. Now, for looping this, what we want to do, we'll start on the left side, and we're going to reach in and grab all 3 black bands of our glove, and then we want to reach in and grab our single burgundy band and loop it forward. And we're going to do that all the way up, making sure that we're just grabbing the burgundy band and that we're forming a teardrop and raindrop shape as we go. We want to take the burgundy bands and move them to the outside of the peg. And we're going to do this for the 2nd peg, 3rd peg, and 4th peg down. We can't do it for the top one, obviously, because it would come off the loom. But now we can reach in and grab our single blue band, and we're going to loop that forward. And again, we're going to reach in and grab the 3 bands for our glove and loop them forward. And we want to reach in and grab just our single blue band and loop it forward. And again, we're going to do that all the way up, making sure that we form our raindrop shape. And once again, we want to move the blue bands to the outside of our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th peg before we reach in and grab our burgundy bands and loop them forward. There we go. And now we can place these on a holding hook. So I'm just going to carefully remove them from the loom. And we can set these aside. And for the legs, what we're going to do, we're going to start with 2 burgundy bands, and we're going to go down the right side 2 times with 2 burgundy bands. We're going to need our gray bands, and we're going to place 2 gray bands continuing down the left side. We want to follow that with 2 blue bands, followed by 2 silver bands to represent the skate blades. And we're going to cap this with a single black band wrapped 3 times around our peg. And we want to do the same thing for the other leg. 2 burgundy bands, 2 times going down the left side, followed by 2 gray bands, 2 blue bands, and our 2 silver bands for the blade. And we're going to cap this with a single black band wrapped 3 times around our peg. And now we're ready to loop these. So we're going to reach inside our cap band, grab our 2 silver bands and loop them forward in a raindrop shape. And we will just continue up to the top. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Again, making sure that we're grabbing both bands and forming our raindrop shape as we go. And we can place these on our holding hook as well. So I'm just going to remove these from the loom. And we'll set this aside. And now we're ready to band our loom. I've mentioned with my NHL players that there are not a lot of attachments involved, just the arms and the legs. And we are going to start with the helmet at the top of our loom. And we're going to take 2 black bands from the first peg in the center to the second peg. And we want to take 2 black bands from the second peg on the left to the first peg in the center. And we're going to do the same thing on the right side. 2 black bands from the first peg in the center to the second peg on the right. We now want to go across this row and place 2 black bands from the second to the third peg on the left, 2 black bands from the second to the third peg in the center, and 2 black bands from the second to the third peg on the right. Next, we want to move down to the visor of the helmet, and for that we're going to be using clear bands. And again, we want to go straight across our loom. So we're going to put 2 clear bands from the third to the fourth peg, 2 clear bands from the third to the fourth in the center, and 2 clear bands from the third to the fourth on the right. We want to move down to his face, and we're going to put 2 skin tone bands continuing down the center. And before we close off his face, we need to grab 3 white bands for his neck protector, and we will continue those going down the center. And now we can close off his face by putting 2 skin tone bands from the 4th peg on the left to the 5th peg in the center, and the 4th peg on the right to the 5th peg in the center. And moving down to his jersey, we are going to need our blue bands, a white band, and our burgundy bands. And we're going to start with a single blue band and a single white band, continuing down the center, and moving to the shoulders, we are going to take a single blue band and a single burgundy band from the 6th peg in the center to the 7th peg on the left. And we're going to do the same thing for the right side, a burgundy band and a blue band from the 6th peg in the center to the 7th peg on the right. Next, we want to take 2 burgundy bands and go down the left, and 2 burgundy bands going down the right. And the sides of our player are going to be similar to our arms, and we are going to go down the left side 3 times with a single burgundy band, and we'll do the same thing on the right side, continuing down the right side 3 times with a single burgundy band. For the center, we are going to be using 2 burgundy bands, and we are going to go down the center 4 times with 2 burgundy bands each time. I need to straighten these bands. I'll wrap my hook around that peg. And 2 more burgundy bands. Now we're going to add the blue, and we need to add from the 8th peg to the 9th peg. We're going to go down 3 times with a single blue band. And this is on the left side. We also want to do the same thing on the right, from the 8th peg to the 9th peg, going down on the right. And we're going to go down a total of 3 times with a single blue band each time. We're going to move on to hockey pants, and we'll be using double bands, and we're going to place 2 black bands continuing down the center, followed by 2 black bands 2 times going down the left, and 2 black bands 2 times finishing off the right side. And to finish off his hockey pants in the center, we're going to take 2 black bands from the 1st peg at the bottom on the left to the 2nd peg from the bottom in the center, and the 1st peg from the bottom on the right to the 2nd peg from the bottom in the center. And again, I'm just going to straighten this band, or these bands, I guess. And as I've mentioned in previous tutorials, the neater your bands are when you start with them on the loom, the neater your final product is going to be. And now we're ready for the attachments. I'm just going to move some of these bands. And we're going to add our legs. We're going to put 1 on the last peg down on the left, and 1 on the last peg down on the right. And for the arms, they will be attached to the 7th peg down from the top And you want to make sure that when you place them on, your blue is on the left side and your burgundy is on the right. So we're going to place this one on our left side, and this one will go on the 7th peg down on the right. And now we are ready for our holding bands, and we will need a single black band going across the 2nd pegs down, a single clear band going across the 3rd pegs from the top, and a single skin tone band across the 4th pegs. Moving down to his jersey, we want a single blue band across the 8th pegs, and the 9th pegs, and the 10th pegs, and we want a single black band across the 11th pegs, and a single black band across the 12th pegs. And now we're ready to loop, and we're just going to reach inside our attachments, and we're going to grab the top 2 black bands. We're starting here on the left side, and we're going to loop over to the center. And we want to do the same thing on the right side, so we're going to reach inside our attachment and grab the top 2 black bands, and we're going to loop those over to the center. And we can continue up the left side, reaching inside, grabbing the 2 black bands and looping them forward. And we are going to do both of these bands for his pants. And then we're going to move over to the right and loop up the 2 links of black bands for his pants. And we can loop up the center, grabbing the 2 black bands for his hockey pants in the center. And now we want to do the left side, and the same with the arm. We're going to reach in and only grab the top blue band and loop it forward, making sure that we stay inside our holding bands and that we are only looping our single blue band in the raindrop shape. We want to go over and do the same thing on the right side, reaching in and grabbing our single blue band, staying inside our holding bands, and looping forward in our raindrop shape. And once we get these looped, we want to reach in, leaving the holding bands where they are as much as we can. We're going to move the blue bands to the outside. And we want to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to grab both bands and move them to the outside of our peg. And now we can continue looping up the left side, grabbing our 2 burgundy bands. And again, we're going to stay inside our holding band and loop forward, forming our raindrop shape. And this time we're going to loop all the way up to the neck, making sure that we're grabbing just the bottom 2 bands. And when we get to the shoulder, we're going to have 1 blue and 1 burgundy. And we can go down and do the same thing on the right, remembering we're grabbing a single burgundy band, staying inside the holding bands, and looping our raindrop shape forward. And again, we're going to continue to the neck, and the last 2, making sure you have a single burgundy and a single blue. And now we can loop up the center, and all of these are going to be 2 burgundy bands, and we're just going to make sure that we're forming our raindrop shape and staying inside the holding bands. And the last 2 are going to be a white and a blue. And when we get to the neck, we want to remember that we've used 3 bands here for our neck protector. So we want to make sure we grab all 3 before we loop those bands forward in our raindrop shape. And I'm going to remove some of this tension by just rolling my hook around that center peg. And then we can reach in and grab the top 2 skin tone bands, and they're going to go over to the right. The next two skin tone bands are going to go over to the left, and the final two skin tone bands will go straight forward. And now we're going to loop up the left side, staying inside our holding bands. We're going to grab our two clear bands, and then reaching in and grabbing two black, and looping them forward, and two black, and looping forward to the top center peg. We're going to go over and do the same thing on the right side, staying inside our holding bands, looping forward our two clear bands, and our two black bands, and two more black bands, making sure we have our raindrop shapes. And finally, we can reach in and loop up the center, grabbing our two clear bands and our last two links of two black bands. There we go. And now we want to double check that we have looped all of our bands. And you may want to pay particular attention to this area where you've attached the hockey pants and these extension type bands, and everything is fine. So we need a single black band, and we're going to form our slip knot. We want to reach straight down through our center pin, making sure we've gone through all of the bands. We're going to grab our single black band and pull it up through the center, and we're going to form our slip knot. And I'm just going to release some of this tension before I give my band a little tug. I find they're less likely to break that way. And now we're ready to remove this from the loom. Now we're going to start at the bottom, and I'll just use my fingers to remove his legs, and then I'm just going to use my hook to pry these bands off these pegs. And when I get to the neck area, I want to use my hook to reach in and wrap around the peg to release those bands, because there are quite a few of them there and it is quite tight, and we don't want the bands to break when we're removing them. It would be a shame to come this far and then break a band. So, and the last peg. Okay, and now our Colorado Avalanche, or the Avs, I guess they're called, is ready for his tweaking. And I'm just going to tighten up the slip knot band, and I want to adjust his skates to make it look like they're actually skates on his feet. And I'm just going to place my hook down through the center and give it a little tug. And I can do the same thing on the other side, reaching my hook straight down through the center of the silver bands and tugging it to the side. And as I do for all my characters, that just defines his feet a little better. And I also want to move his hands down to his sides, and I'm just going to place my hook down through the center of these shoulder bands and tug them to the side, or straight up actually. And you can also use your fingers to do this. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, reaching in, grabbing a hold of the top bands and giving it a little tug. And the last thing we need to do is secure our slip knot band, and I'm going to do that by placing my hook through a few bands at the back of his head, and I will grab a hold of this black loop and pull it through. And I can do that in a couple of spots. If you're more comfortable, you can use a C-clip to secure this band. I don't really feel you need one. We only need it tucked out of the way. And we'll just stretch his head out a little bit. And maybe pinch his waist at the center. And there you go. This is our Colorado Avalanche player. I hope you like it, Nicole. I can't wait to see your version. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, I have done a tutorial for a hockey stick. And if you would like to make one, the tutorial's on my YouTube page. You can attach this just by tucking it through a couple of the bands on his hands if you want him to hold it in two hands, or you can have him holding it in one hand. And again, we would just grab a couple of bands and tuck the stick through, and he can be holding a hockey stick. And there you go. This is my tutorial for the Colorado Avalanche player. Thank you so much for watching. I really would like to hear your comments below, and post pictures if you make this character. I'd love to see them. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can be notified when I post additional tutorials. I have all kinds of balls that I'm juggling in the air right now for different tutorials on different characters. So take a look at my Facebook, take a look at my Pinterest or my Instagram accounts, and you'll see some of the things that are going to be coming up down the line. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.